yes, I do.
We got home at about 11 o'clock on Sunday night. Is that what you're gonna have? We got home at about 11.
11:30, I just got to stop.
Oh, did we? You just went to the Burger King like on the thruway?
We ended up somehow behind our hotel, about
Thank
5 minutes.
Oh,
So we went
no
to
problem. Thank you, guys.
Jackson and left.
You want it now? I'll just give it to you.
Nice job, Mr.
No, thank you.
Have a good night. Have a good night.
Next up is our public hearing of property tax exemption. Before I go any further, yeah. So I'm going to call the public hearing of property tax exemption meeting to order.
This has to do with the firefighter exemption.
I think you have to motion to open it and close it though.
Okay.
So I'll just open and close?
Yeah, I think we have to motion to
Yeah,
open
motion,
it.
yeah,
and
so I
then-
need a
yeah.
motion to open the meeting. John? Taylor?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All good. So we're just gonna leave that open until we have discussion?
No, you just have to open it, see if anybody wants to talk about it. You can also, then we can just close it.
Because we have discussion on it later on.
You can then have further discussion on the actual action piece, because we also have that on here, but we have to open it up for the public to make any comments or ask any
Okay.
questions, and right now, it doesn't look like anybody out there want to talk about it. So then you can just motion to close it.
Yeah, okay, that was easy.
So, just so I just want to verify, so people that are watching, if they have questions about it, they can email questions to us, is that correct?
Sure.
Okay, so maybe we just give a short synopsis during this public forum, right?
Yeah, I could actually go to that particular section if we need to.
So while he's doing that, just a quick, there is on the table, the firefighters exemption for tax purposes for the people who are volunteer firemen, EMS. I believe there's one more category of first responders. So that is on the table for tonight. It does have to be approved before March 1st. So Mr. Roach will go through some of the things that we've kind of talked about and recommendations that we have. If we decide to move forward and it's not tonight, then we would have to have a special board meeting to do that.
Yeah, so it's essentially a resolution has to be passed by the board to afford a discount to all workers who are firefighters, ambulance workers, and I think that's EMTs and firefighters. There's a broad amount that we can do. We can use 1 to 10% on a tax reduction. We can talk about how many years that tax exemption would go forward. And so there's a few parameters that we'll get into later in the day, but basically the board has to vote on whether we agree to give tax exemptions to volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers. We also have to agree, if we do want to go forward with this, on who meets the qualification. So if someone's a voluntary firefighter for over 5 years or over 10 years, they may be eligible for this exemption if we move forward with it. But there will be discussion later on about it. And like Richard said, we don't have to vote on it this evening. But if we don't have resolution, then we do have to come back because it has to be enacted by March 1st. Okay? Anyone have anything they want to talk about at this point in the meeting? Okay. Then I'm going to ask for a motion to close the. Thank you. Sarah and Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. All right, so that meeting is closed. That hearing is closed. So. Okay, community comments. Any?
I do not have any.
Perfect. All right. Next up, we have a presentation on the proposed capital project.
Yes,
I think we're doing the estimated impact from reserve.
correct. Yep, so first up, Well, there are several little presentations about the capital project, but first up will be the estimated impact of the proposed capital project by Bernie Donegan, and we have Sarah Bradshaw here to represent them. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I do have some copies. Yeah, good, okay. Am I good if I stand over here? Thanks for having us back. I've been here a few times, and really the beginning of this process is the idea of a project and financially how that looks within your district and layering it in with your current capital position. Tonight, we actually have your scope that will be discussed later on with your financials. So this is a meeting really just to put the pieces together and see what how it's looking financially. I'll stop for questions. It's pretty small up here. If you want to have a question and I haven't paused, please interrupt and I'll go ahead and either go into more detail or answer any questions. So really when there is a need for a project in a school district, we kind of pull back and financially look at the current position of the district to see if there's opportunities that would work well for the district and the community, timing wise to bring a project on. So if there's a drop in local share or debt service for the budgeting aspect of it, as well as dollar size. If there is a drop, what is that, and quantify what kind of size project fits within there. So that's really what we did in this position here. Your blue area that's your current project. So all your past projects, that have debt service in column C coming in, your building aid in column D. In column F, the first in blue, that's your local share to your capital projects. The negative number, that's actually more building aid coming back against your capital projects than you do have outstanding debt service. In the 2024 line, we'll go across the top there, is the year that the district has decided to move into doing capital outlay projects. So that is $100,000 capital projects each year. You build into your budget. You're on a 4-year cycle to get the appropriate work completed. So again, you put it in your budget, you plan for it, submit to SED. The next year you spend it out in one fiscal year and you get your aid back the next year in full. Typical capital projects is aided back over 15 years for a reconstruction project. So a good benefit is it's at 100,000 limit, higher than, but you do get your building aid back for the next year after it's spent. So that was first built in the 23-24 budget cycle, so our current year. Our last column in the blue there is your overall local share picture of your building. So we have your existing projects as well as the capital project or capital outlays coming on board. In 2024, your local share is around 50,000. In 24-25, you can see an increase of 96,000. That's your local share of your current, and then there's a drop that's really going at a zero. It would be pretty much right there. The increase from 46 to 96 in your local share is actually your building aid ratio went down significantly, estimated for the 24-25 fiscal year. It was roughly about 5%. So that is all your past projects. When you vote on a project, you lock in the formula that's current to that project, not the definite, not really the ratio. So right now, your formula is, you're actually at your base. So the formula right now, you can't go any lower, which is the good news. Any current project or this picture can only improve based on the current formula. Any questions on that? Okay. So again, tonight we're going to be looking off your 24-25, that's your local share of 96,000. You have your drop off after that, and that is the timing of when this project's impact would come on board. So you can see in yellow there, that is 2026. So the idea, when we look at this picture, not much here other than that black line going across the top there, or the middle of the page, that's your current local share. If we stay below that line, that's no additional impact project. So it keeps your position in the 2024-25 budget remaining the same when this project comes on board in 26. Anything above the line, that would be additional impact to the community. Any questions on that? So just some assumptions to the project. Again, your building aid ratio for the estimate of 24-25 is 90.8. Again, right now, based on the formula, that is as low as you can go. That is a drop between your current. Estimated bond percentage, that's the aidability of the project, is at 97.5%. And really this is assumed with scope as well as your aid ceilings per building from the state, that this is a fully aidable project. So all the work you're doing within the project is aidable. That's really just a conservative percentage that we back off, just in case the state wants to take something out or any other just conservative number there. Looking at voting in May of 2024, SED approval right around October of 2025. Then we get into our borrowings at that point. You can see the first interest coming in for the project June of 26, and that's where that drop off was in the local share. So again, that's how that's fitting in there. Some borrowing interest rates assumed 5 and 6% for short and long-term financings. This is a fully reconstruction project, so you will be getting aided back over 15 years for your building aid. So again, working with your architects and your construction managers as well as the district, total authorization proposed is $14,700,000. Your revenues on the left-hand side, we have a capital reserve use of 1.2, which is great, right? You don't pay interest on that money, so it's good that it was there, set aside to use and put forward to help with the offsetting and any future impact for bringing projects on board. So again, no interest on that money. It is also used in the beginning of a project, so you can actually wait as long as possible to get into any borrowings. You have at least 18 months before you start getting building aid back on any project after SED approval. So you sometimes have to borrow, and there's a little bit of lag before you get your building aid back. That does help offset when you have to start borrowing for the project. Breakdown on the right here, just construction incidentals of the project at 13.6. A DASNY fee, that's a financing fee to finance through the Dorm Authority of the State of New York at 414. Capitalized interest is a mechanism for interest before you get the building aid. You'll see that in the payback schedule. So again, that brings us to the 14.7. So this is the timing of the project, and again, you can see from vote, one of the first flags there, May of 2024. After a successful vote, there's a lot of planning. And all of these guys have fun with that. But then they submit to the state, and then the state takes a while to approve a project. So that's really the first beginning parts of the project after the approval for a successful vote. And then we get into the financing. Those are short-term financings in the pink boxes there. That's how you start a project. So you use your 1.2 first, and then you get into short-term financings. You don't want to lock into a bond until you know exactly the dollars you're spending in case you don't spend the full authorization. You also want to know your revenue coming back, so your building aid starting to come back. That happens dependent on when you close out the project, so we don't want to lock into a bond until we know those pieces. Okay. These are the numbers of the project. Again, proposed 14.7 in column B there. You can see your 1.2 in capital reserve used. Interest rates assumed at the top there. Debt serviced in total per year is around 1.3, 1.4. Building aid coming back at 1.3. So you can go all the way to column J, and you're looking for this project standalone about 90,000 per year of impact over the 15 years at 1.5%, or I'm sorry, 1.5 million impact. Again, you're looking to time that with your current drop-offs to keep you at a stable level for your local share. This is the same picture as where we started. Your blue and the tan are your building pieces. The dotted line across the page is where your proposed project comes on board. So if we look at the gray column in column L, above the line you're at 96,000 per year. Below the dotted line there, when the project starts coming on board, you're right at the same level there at that 90 to roughly 90,000. And then again, that's straight down for 15 years. So just looking into the future, any future projects would either have a tax impact if needed, or you need capital reserve to offset, to put towards same use as the 1.2, but in this case you wouldn't have a drop off in the 15 years. So again, layering in with capital reserve, or you would need a tax impact for future projects. And that's the graph there. Again, you can see the black line across. The purple is where the project comes on board, and we are staying right at that level flat across. So here are the dates we're working towards, and you'll see those later on in the presentation as well. So finalizing the scope is really through the winter of 23-24. Tonight we're here presenting the financial as well as the scope pieces of the project. March 11th is when, moving forward, if the board chooses to, would adopt a seeker resolution as well as the wording of the proposition for the vote. March 28th, you start your legal publications. So again, after you adopt, you need to put the legal publications, they need to be out there prior to the vote. May 21st will be the vote this year. And then your last step to really get all the pieces in place to start the project as far as the financing would be typically at your next board meeting after the May vote, June 10th. And that's to adopt your bond resolution. So at that point, you are ready to start financing. You won't need it for a while, but we just put all the pieces up front there so you're ready to go. Not yet. Okay, any questions?
It's good, thank you.
Thank you very much. You covered the construction part too, Sarah.
Apologies.
As far as I go. Oh, we don't, this is the building aid ratio chart. This is where we get those numbers for your building aid. If you want to follow the formula, you'll know why that reduction happened and why you're at your base. It wasn't, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is human tension, right?
I believe it's me, correct?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So Sarah, we want to thank you for all of that. I think the biggest pull that you can get from Sarah's, and correct me if I'm wrong, is, you know, we are adding, through the work of what you've done as a board in this community, we are able to add $1.2 million into this $14.7 million project to make it a tax neutral project. That's the biggest pull that I get from there. And basically this month, the pre-planning is over and we're into the game on March 11th. So from here to March 11th is where we gotta finish up what's going on, because on March 11th, you'll be faced with the vote to move forward on the scope and the commitments that we have laid out to the entities to get this building project going and out for a vote. Am I correct in all of that? Okay. So the other pull that I think you have to take away from Sarah's presentation is this. You know, we have debt service falling off. If we are truly looking to fortify our future here and stop, you know, I'm gonna start taxing people and fining people if they start talking, to make sure we're here for the kids for a very long time and they have a great educational plant to learn from and move forward. All right, so we're at a tax neutral 1.2 million. The debt service needs to stay. I know that sounds crazy, but people have to understand that when you keep your debt service where it needs to be, your state aid keeps rolling in. So you're going to see in a couple weeks as budgets roll out, some districts have let their debt service fall off, and now they're not getting state aid, and now they're talking about eliminating programs, moving staff around. Okay, we're not in that position. All right, but let's start talking about the capital project. But thank you again, Sarah, for all of that work. And let's see. Okay, so we've seen this chart many times. We're at the point where we're getting close to saying, will it pass, right? And I think you'll see this chart later in with some dates and times. So move forward from there. Not as good as the button. Am I hitting the right button?
Skip through.
I don't want to keep hitting something. I'll break it. I know.
Yeah.
Me too, maybe the battery.
See, I hit a lot
Yeah.
of buttons. Look
Catching
what's
up.
going
Okay.
on.
Apologies.
That's what happens. I feel like that Jurassic Park guy, if you ever saw that movie. Sometimes he touches that. Okay, here is our timeline. As I said, there's March with the big star on it. We're right in February. okay? And we're talking about our scope and design and our financials. And the next big thing will be that March, and then hopefully 2 months later, we'll be voting this thing in and moving forward. And I keep hitting that, that's bothering me. All right, go ahead, Greg, might as well just keep moving forward if you don't mind. All right, the project scope, that's a little too much for me to see, but I think the next slide gives us a better, can we just go to the next slide? Okay.
And we actually brought some coffee.
Oh, okay, great.
This is the fully detailed, I know.
Thank you, Pam.
Yep.
And while Pam's handing that out, I can't, thank Pam and Garrett and Eric and Paul for all their work and what they've done. They've been in several meetings. They keep me on track, especially Garrett. When I look at it and I say, okay, well, what's next? He's like, all right, this is where we need to go and what we need to do, because I'm relatively still new at this. So we appreciate all their work in getting to where we need to be. So here are the big highlights of where we're going with our project. Safety and security. I was out talking with the crossing guard on Broadway. And as I'm walking out to Broadway through our school, the cement the pads are crumbling, the light poles are ancient. I'm not sure if they turn on or not, and there's only 2 of them out front. You go across the way, the same things with the sidewalks, and you look in our parking lots, big dips in the other way. I was over at the Annex building and the Broadway garage. And so we need to, again, secure those pathways, bring in extra lighting. And really, if you look at the front of our school from the road, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous. Now imagine that all refurbished and renovated with new sidewalks, new lights, fresh paint, not paint, but I guess the spray washing with it and cleaned up. It'll be gorgeous. So those are some of but the big thing is safety. We're looking at a generator, and we've talked about that, and we want to reconfigure our main office. The vestibule's nice, but we really need to really secure that so that we have an area where someone's being checked in, and right now when they're being checked in, they can come into we buzz them into the main office, and now they have access to the school. So we want to make sure we're finding that balance between being safe and not being institutionalized, if you can follow what I mean. So we need to redo that, and we need to get an administrator closer to that main office. So we're going to be reconfiguring that. Again, the facilities improvement, and that's at a cost of $3,134,187. The next one is the facilities improvement. We're talking about replacement of the pads in the gym. We're going to refurbish that floor. We're going to do some, again, the exterior masonry wall work, especially over in Ryan Herman's area, the technology, and that'll be at a cost of about $2 million. Roofing is a huge thing. We are trying to do some things differently and looking at some of our warranties, but we need to look at the main gym, the high school, that area, and kind of just do a whole kind of look at these roofs. And that's at a cost of $4 million. And then our HVAC, we want to put in AC at the second floor of our elementary, in the gym, and on 2 classes on the 3rd floor of the high school. And that will run, we want to do tech room dust collector replacement. And that comes at a cost of $3,626,874 for, again, a total cost of $14,700. Anything to add? All right. Now, one more, Greg, go ahead. So 14.7, it sounds like a lot. But when we first started it, we started at 17.4, okay? And I think we were up at 18.1, if I remember right, at one point. So obviously we had to make some adjustments in order to keep this as a tax neutral and to get what we needed. So I want to thank Tim and John for their work in this. They sat through many of the meetings. So some of the things we talked about, the football field. Now, clearly, we're not utilizing our football field, but it is a great space. And it can be a wonderful space. So what do we need to improve that space so it's not sand, dirt, things like that? So we talked about resodding it, but right now there's no irrigation. There's not any way to water what we're doing out there. So we talked about doing all the lines. Well, that was gonna be a little bit too much. So then we did something, and now we're talking about a water cannon, which comes down to a little less money. Re-roofing allowances created for priority C and D areas. I know you don't have the map there, but we had to create priorities for that in our worst areas. And some of our things we think we're gonna be able to do through warranty. So we kind of reconstructed that. The high school classrooms, we had to reprioritize. We talked about trying to do all the floors in the high school and ACing the gym. We could either do one or the other. I put it out to the faculty a little bit, we tossed it around, and finally I put it to the kids in my liaison group. And everyone overwhelmingly said AC in the gym. So we will, but again, please know that through Chris's work in the budget that you'll see, we are gonna allocate some things so we can refurbish a classroom. So we can start kind of looking at least one classroom, maybe a year until we can. Because our high school classrooms, they're antiquated and the floors really need to be done. And we need some new furniture in a lot of those. So we're hoping to do that. So it's not totally off the table, but we're not gonna be able to do it wholesale like we thought. Building-wide emergency generator. We started talking about gas, we started talking about high wattage, and now we brought that down to diesel and only to run our essentials there. The next thing, district testing, balancing energy code commissioning increase to reflect the amount of HVAC work. And cost escalation based on the summer, construction, and DASNY cap interest expense adjusted for the final project. So those are some of the things that we hit in order to get from 17.4 to 14.7. Am I missing anything there? Hey.
Rich, just one correction, it
Thank
was a diesel generator, but it's still a whole total generator.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, and next, capital project financials, which I think we already went over. We already do that, yes. And again, the projected timeline, which we've already gone, we're at the pre-referendum stage. And so the next part of it is the March 11th scope. You have the document in front of you which details all of what we're trying to do in the next capital project. It's important that we, unfortunately, even 14.7 is not going to get us everything we want, but it'll truly be a start, and it'll keep us on track to look at the next project. So you just completed one, that was 5 years ago. I think the rule of thumb, correct me, is usually every 5 years. You want to kind of look at moving forward and trying to improve your building and improve your site. Just like your house, you wouldn't let some things go in your home for 5 years. We can't do that with our school. Any questions?
To your point, Rich, it's great that we're fixing the school up, getting it ready. We want to be here for a long time. If you add the previous one, that's $20 million investment in the school over the last 5 years, which is fantastic, I think. But the other thing, the important thing, is what you opened with. Not keeping our debt service going is going to be critical to the school. We will lose state aid, and we rely a lot on state aid. So it's important that everyone gets on board with this. I think it's great for the building, it's great for our longevity, and it's an important project. Yeah.
And, again, and I'm going to keep saying it, our kids deserve it. Our kids deserve it. You look at this was part of the last project, correct? This library, it's nice and bright. It's welcoming, right? You have nice natural sunlight coming in. There are some great qualities, the new furniture, the rugs. You go into the high school part of our side, it's kind of a little dark. It's kind of a little older, you know, unfortunately, you look at the thresholds going into classrooms, they're cracked. And, you know, you go to local schools, you've been there, all of you follow athletics, so you've been able to go to many of our schools. They're shiny, they're new, they're bright. Our kids deserve this. Our kids deserve this, and, you know, Mark Besson, Dan Ward, they helped us prepare to be at this moment where we can do another project at tax neutral. So I'm hoping we can take advantage of that, provide our kids with what they deserve, and fortify this building and just keep it here for the future. Questions, comments? All right, thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Next up, I believe we have the one, the only, Mr. Ray.
You can try the clicker over there, I don't know.
I don't know, it's over for you.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys, appreciate it. You sure you don't want to stay for this?
No. I already know you were gonna leave, I would ask the question.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you, guys, have a great night.
Thank you.
Sarah. Thanks. Oh, you too? You're leaving too?
The drive, I love this stuff.
Christy, try the clicker really quickly just to see if it's being fussy. Bit delayed.
That's what I was just thinking.
I was saying,
It's tight.
you know, he wasn't
Likes
gym
my
coach. Just saying. You know what they say? Those who can teach, teach. Those who can't teach, gym.
I say that to my husband all the time.
My son's a gym coach.
Say it all the time.
I was gonna wait for Rich.
We should have some hold music playing.
Edit this out, post-production, right?
I heard that Mr. Rader has a great singing voice.
Our own halftime show.
The floor is yours.
A little karaoke?
I don't roller skate though.
Next year they should have Keith Richards and Willie Nelson since they probably did Super Bowl I.
You didn't wait for me, did you? Oh, I've seen this, go ahead.
Emotional support.
Oh, thank you.
Well, welcome. This is budget workshop number 2 for our 24-25 school budget. Our goal is again to provide business direction through transparency and detail. And these are our topics for this evening. We're going to review budget workshop 1 summary. We're going to show pictures highlighting our school needs. We will review financial strategies, revenue update, plant operations and maintenance, transportation, technology, athletics, co-curricular, equipment, contractual and supplies, and we will put out our first estimated draft of the budget. So again, fortifying our future. So looking at budget workshop number 1, we already knew since I've been here that we've been using ESSER monies, the grant monies from the COVID, to stabilize many of our salaries. That number ended up being last year $420,000. The highlighted cafeteria account is monies that we have to upfront July 1st to cover our cafeteria expenses. We will get all of that money back. However, instead of robbing Paul to pay Peter, this is a way that we can stabilize our account by paying it upfront on July 1st instead of going to another account and trying to come up with $150,000. So that was not budgeted last year. So if you look at the highlighted bottom part, our real operating expenses for last year's 23-24 budget, including ESSER, including the cafeteria account that should have been budgeted, was truly $12,869,626. That's what we used to operate, to keep Fort Edward for this year. Also, we needed to increase, so this coming budget, we're increasing operational and maintenance to our building. Last year alone, we spent out of budget money of over $100,000 just to fix roof repairs, leaks. If we put into the capital project, just in an aid ratio, that is almost $900,000 that we would have gotten out of that $100,000 investiture. The problem is we did not use that money correctly in that way because we had to put patches into the building and fix the things that were falling apart. So that was $100,000 that we used of our monies that we could have, if we used strategically, got $900,000 back. So that's why the capital project is such a great opportunity, because you're using already tax money of $1.2 million and getting a $14.7 million capital project. So
Did you say, I'm sorry, you said $100,000, we would have gotten $90,000 back, not $900,000.
we would have gotten $900,000 at 90%. So we put in $100,000. If we did it in the capital project, it would have actually been a $900,000 capital project.
Okay. We're talking about two different,
Same concept,
Yeah, I
but
got
that's
you,
what it
got
would
you,
have been.
okay,
Yep. Summer school, we did not actually have that in our budget last year. We used a grant called DSIP that no longer exists. So we have to also put that into our budget with our summer school coming up. Another area where we felt was depleted in our past budgets is professional development. So curriculum, looking at how to improve our staffing so we can actually know how to be well-equipped to teach our students and to have programs that people are feeling like they are prepared to take us to the next steps of our future. I put in with the budget about $29,000.
And there are many state initiatives, and I think Aaron can piggyback off it a little bit, that are occurring, such as the Science of Reading Initiative, new state standards in the areas of science, ELA. Teachers are going to have time to prepare for those, when that allows us to do that along with materials. And they will also need some coaching that we usually go through BOCES for. So that gives us enough to hopefully allow our teachers time to plan, be developed through coaching, and then actually have the resources to implement it, where we can be one of the best small schools in the state academically at some point. But we have to start that role. We have to. That's something that we haven't had as a line item in a long time.
Absolutely. One of the things the business office did was we knew some of these financial impacts. Obviously, $900,000 hitting us was going to be a significant amount of money. But reviewing our financial strategies, one area we were able to save is we are now going to move our Fort Edward business office from an FEH BOCES controlled to a Fort Edward employed business office. I also think optically we are here to stay. We are now the only district within the 31 consortium with Wishwe BOCES that currently does not have their own paid staff. This gives you the opportunity to say, we own our business. Our business office is yours. So we will actually, by getting out of the FEH BOCES contract, we will save this year, because it was a $500,000 line item. We will save to this budget $311,000. Special education efforts. This was made, again, in collaboration with our previous Director of Pupil Services, of finding what our true costs were for students, bringing back students. We were able to save, and we, again, projecting what our potential spend could be, because this is a high variable. You could have a family of 5 that needs special services, and that's also kind of what we project. We are saving about $279,000 there. And the biggest hit, which again, Michelle and I worked really hard on this, was we knew the consortium was still trying to find their footing. We knew it was gonna be about a 16% increase again. So what we did in the fall was move a lot of our retirees to Medicaid Advantage or Medicare Advantage. And by doing so, we were able to only for this year spend 1.255% for a savings that would have impacted your budget of $276,000. So a grand total of $867,681 savings from this could have been impacted to your budget. So our number projections going forward, this is based on a lot of our historical baselines. We've done a lot of reports based again on what our past spends have been, consultation with our business office, our team, and again, looking at our costs. So here's our revenue update. Most of this is based on the governor's first run of her aid return. So this is how foundation aid is giving back to us, pre-K, BOCES. I highlighted high costs, excess costs, and private excess costs. This is based on our stacking for foster, homeless. What happens is when they first put out the state aid run, these are not used really with the correct calculator. As I mentioned this last year in our budget presentation, they don't always run these correctly. So the numbers aren't always perfectly true, but that's why there's some off there. But that's what we're planning right now for 24-25 with all the aid coming back from the state, 8,353,915, which is actually a 1% decrease at 85% loss. Again, we are strategically moving things. We know last year sometimes we got revenue that we weren't predicting, like the bullet aid, which was 75,000. Sometimes that happens. Again, there's some things we can't project or predict, but this is right now what we're looking at the state aid. So when we talk about health and fiscally health, we are still moving in that direction, but there are variables like this. We have no control of what the runs will be. So we have to be, again, squirreling away money, putting monies on the side so we can kind of make sure we can absorb some impacts. And we do feel confident that we're doing it, but it doesn't mean we're going to spend frivolously. This is a way that we are, again, navigating sometimes uncharted waters or unclear waters by fiscally being strategic in our spend.
So can I pause you just for a second, okay? So I think the two things that we want to pull away from the last two slides, if you back up one slide. So Chris, correct me if or two slides. If you correct me if I'm wrong, that $867,000. So if we weren't able to move the business office, if we didn't have intense special ed efforts, and you didn't move those things, those are things that would have had to be in the budget, and we would have had some spend. So we're at, so add that to the total of the budget, and that's what he took down away to get to where the final number will be. Correct. You guys kind of follow me on that?
Which makes
All
up
right.
for what he just told us about the SRA.
Yep.
Correct. So now go to the next two slides, back to where you were.
Yep.
The other part of this is important because this is your state, this is what we're getting for state aid, and as you'll see, it's a minus 1%, $85,000 now. So someone at the state is playing with the safe harmless, and they're playing with foundation aid, again, the formula. Now, that hasn't been played with in 25 years. So this could be the start of a very bad ball rolling in the next 2 or 3 years. So that's why we really have to make sure that we're looking at that and watching that. Okay, so when Chris talks about, we're gonna keep talking about it, fortifying the future, making sure that we're planning ahead. In the finance meeting prior to this meeting, Tom was like 3-4 years down the road. These are the things that you've got to watch for 3-4 years down the road. Because they're obviously playing with safe harmless and foundation aid.
Well, there's certainly factors that cause that.
Yeah. And again, so 1% this year, and it all has a compounding effect. So thank you.
Absolutely, it's very true. So our current aid ratios at the top, building aid is at 90%, transportation aid is at 90%, and BOCES aid is currently at 77%. BOCES is hard, as I mentioned again by previous presentations. it really runs the gambit. So on most of them, you can get 77%, but depending on the BOCES service that you're putting into, sometimes it can be as low as 2% return. So we try to put some really good monies into areas where we know we're gonna get a good bang for the buck. As I mentioned from last Workshop 1, we've been doing a lot with the arts and education program. There's also an enrichment program. There's also gifted and talented. They will return you at that 77%. So one of the things we were able to do this year is reinstate the 6th grade trip to Broadway. So we were able to give a really good reduction on their ticket prices, and we're getting 77% of that back. So by doing that, we're allowing opportunities to our children. We're allowing just, again, cultural advancements that, again, a small school shouldn't be without. You should be able to tap into the world and to feel like you're more than just a little pinprick of the globe. And some of the things we're doing is realizing how to offer our students with a better way of using your money. And so, you know, you have $100, but how can we stretch it? That's what we're doing. And we're doing that every day and trying to make each day better than the day before. So if you look on the bottom, tax levy, tax cap, we've done a run rate for the last 6 years here. So back in 2019 and 20, you'll see the tax cap was a 0.1%. That is very bad, because what happens is when you go that low and you kind of have like no real impact to your tax base, it ends up hitting you in the long run. So if you look at 21, 22, you had to jump up to 9.7%, because when you don't do the tax cap, it will eventually hit you. So this is a way that, again, you can kind of use money, strategically fund things. You want to kind of keep it around that 2%, but we are only 0.14 over last year. So it looks like we're kind of running a pretty good rate, and that will allow us to balance our budget at the projected $13.4 million. Okay.
So Chris, can I stop your quote here? So the top two numbers I think we just need to pay attention to is, notice how I mentioned in the last slide, we went down $85,000. Well, if you look at, you know, from 23 to 24, it's 3.5 and 3.6. That's about $85,000. So that's what we'll be getting. You know, we'll be getting $3 million from the tax, but it's $85,000 more from the last year, and we lost $85,000 in state aid. So anyway, can I ask a question on this? And if you don't have the answer, that's fine. Is that like 19 and 2021? Was that the actual tax cap, or was that the tax levy that the district went out with?
That was the tax cap.
So the highest they could go was 0.1.
They went down to 0.1.
Okay.
I mean, you can always go to the 0.2 or the 2.0. They chose to go 0.1.
So that was what,
Chris, because that doesn't make sense to my brain. I gotta see what 18 was, because there's a reason. We would never go out to the tax cap. We would never go under the tax. That's what I'm trying to say. So I don't know.
Let me run that.
You gotta run it again,
previous year.
because that looks like a big anomaly, right?
yeah.
And if you're looking at the numbers up top, what are you talking? What's that? $6,000?
600,000.
We've seen it for like the
Between
past 10 years
19 and
before on
24,
here. It
about
did. It was
600,000.
really low for a couple years, and then we got the 10% hit. It was like it was expected of us.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that might have been. That's what I'm saying. It might have been a contingency year. So there's some anomaly that
It could have been, because if you go contingency, what happens is then you have to get rid of all
So
those
if
parts
you
of the
look at
budget.
18,
Go back to the last one.
look at 18,
Yeah.
it'll be
I think that was that year.
But I think the positive here is this, right? Like, let's take these anomalies out. Because these are the years that I'm here. So, right, we're staying right where we need to be. You know, we're at 2, and that's right where we want to be. I think that's kind of a sweet spot right there. And you know, I don't know what happened in these years.
Well, I can tell you what happened. I mean, again, 19's an anomaly. You got to take a look at what 18 looked like. But the 9.7, there was a grab in the tax that we had to make. I'm sorry, Sandy. There was a grab we had to make that year. I don't know if something was coming off the books, or if there was an assessment to something that year.
What was the assessment?
Was it the urban thing that they kind of?
Yes.
Something like that. There was some
They
reason why we
reassessed
had to do
Irving.
that. I'm sorry?
Was it that the year they reassessed Irving, like super low, or they
No,
had
that was 2 years
That was
ago.
2 years
Crazy
ago,
thing.
yeah. So I don't know, but Yeah, I'd like to get the history of that.
All right, I'll try to get the 18.
I'm not worried about the 9.7, I know we had to grab there, but I don't know what that .1 is, that's weird.
But I still think my point with it is if you don't hit the 2s and the 2, you will eventually have it years down the road where it's a gigantic impact.
Oh, we knew that
So-
going into that year, we suffered from that 10 years ago.
Yeah.
When the dewatering facility was still here, they were keeping everything low, and then of course we had to go up the last year it was there because we were losing that $176,000 in revenue, so yeah, so that's, but 2's where we should be, 2 point something where we should be, those anomalies are interesting.
And I'll also point, part of the point, 1.4 increase was when Sarah was mentioning the local share. We have to adjust for that. So that was part of what we absorbed. So in the calculation, which the state controller puts out, that was one of the things we had to put in as the note. So that's why it went up a little bit higher, is because we know taking on, you know, the debt service a little bit, we had to account for that local share. So that's where that share came from. And here's still more of our revenue update. So this is how I was able to break down percentage-wise of where we get our funding from. So the state, our state aid is 62.4%. Additional revenue, we actually get $1 million of additional revenue, and that's at 7.6%. Property tax and STAR, that's 27.1% of our revenue to balance the budget. And the appropriate fund balance, which comes from our, you know, taxpayer monies or what we have in our fund balance, we're able to say, hey, we're going to balance our budget by using this amount of allotted funds. And for our budget currently this year, 24-25 coming up, we are putting out $390,000 to help balance the budget. So here is our plant operations and maintenance. Again, we will do the entire lines for all the accounts, but I wanted to make sure, again, you guys can see where every cent of our budget is spent. I really like doing that because in order for you to see where every cent is spent, you really need to know where all the accounts and how they're broken down. There's nothing really outstanding here except for, again, we wanted to put extra money into our operations, our maintenance. Some of these vendors, we didn't always budget correctly, in the fact that it was, you know, we didn't have a Steve last year. Having Steve here was very helpful just on an educational standpoint of where he needs to spend. We did have a lot of accounts that were anemic, very, very low, but that was just to kind of just do a low sustaining. And as I said, we had to kind of use unbudgeted money to do a lot of the repairs for roof and stuff that was actually from other accounts. So we already used over $100,000. So that was not included in his budgets. That's why we were going up about $250,000 just to make sure we have those budgeted accounts for the spends that we need to keep this building going. Transportation, again, it's a privilege and an honor to be the supervisor of transportation, and working with Joyce before was helpful and educational, but being really in it is even more of an education.
Hey, I'm sorry, just one thing before you go forward, I'm
Yep.
sorry, I'm trying to get over here. A lot of the increase in that plant operations and maintenance is the SRO, right?
No, he was that position was already budgeted last year, so it would be
It was budgeted 23, 24.
that was budgeted in 23-24, correct? Yep. A lot of that would be Greenwood, Tetra Tech. There's a few extra ones. Trampoline. Yep. Correct. Those would be the impacted.
But the nice part about those line items, sorry to interrupt you, those will be incorporated into the hopefully be into the capital project where we'll get 90% back on that.
Correct. And so, yep, and again, to that point, it looks big, it looks scary, it's a high number, but a lot of our monies are attached to revenue streams. So if we invest now into building aid and we have transportation aid, these are things that are going to come back to you as revenue streams in the future. So that's why, again, you don't want to ever have like anemic accounts, because you're kind of handcuffed not putting money into your business. The beautiful thing about school business, especially here at Fort Edward, our ratios are so high that if you put the money in, you can stretch that dollar, so you can really make sure we're meeting the needs. So again, Tetra Tech, schoolhouse, trampoline, those budget lines will come back to you at 90% because that will be incorporated within the building project.
What's Bear Communications?
Those are our radios.
Yep. sadly, we have battery issues and things that still need, so we have to make sure we have that as a budget line item.
Oh, no, I was just curious because they had Adirondack two-way.
Yep.
And that's for the
bus.
buses,
Yep.
the big antenna, wherever that is on some mountain or
Oh.
something. We have to pay a fee for that.
Yep. So again, enjoying the transportation supervising. There's a lot of things that we are seeing still of needs, but what we've done is we are adjusting to making sure we have surveillance 24/7 was something we used to have historically, but we haven't had it in the last 5 years. This company comes in and under a maintenance contract can repair cameras, making sure that they're up and working. Anything that's broken, they will fix. So it's worth your salt and your money by investing in this maintenance because they will actually make sure we're not spending for brand new cameras or fixing things on our own. This will be forward thinking of how to do what we need to do to make sure our transportation needs are met.
And is it fair to say that this falls under what you said is aidable expenses?
Most of these will be aidable, correct?
Okay, so that
Yes.
we take advantage of the 90% on
Correct.
most of this, okay.
Yes, most of them will be aidable. Technology, this is with our state aided. This is all just what the state has allocated. I just wanted to make sure again you knew that these were all coming back to us as well. We put it into the budget. These are 100% returned to us. Co-curricular, broken down by every club, advisor. This allows mentors, mentorships. This gives you kind of an understanding of where all that money is going. I still also have moot court on there, so if that's something we are looking at adding, I have included that into the budget. I think that's a great thing. I remember growing up, that was a good opportunity, especially if you're into law, a great way to present cases. This is, so again, I don't want to limit our school. I want to give opportunity. So this is a budget that I think, listening to people and what their kind of interests lie, this is a way that we can kind of start throwing that in there. But this is, again, each club that we have run or have desires of running. Athletics. Some of these sports we, again, are hoping to have still, but we didn't always have full teams. Like we did not have a varsity girls basketball this year, but that still was budgeted. So we want to still plan accordingly. We want to plan ahead. We have the unified sports. We do it, actually it says football cheerleading advisor, but it still is actually, that's the new competitive cheer. So although it's tagged wrong, it's the amount of money that we're planning on investing. So each line again. And athletics continue. This would be a lot of our supplies. One thing we did see was we really didn't ever budget for chaperones, scoreboard operators, shot clock. We just threw it into like a just big pot. So this is a way that we were able to say, hey, this is what we're going to project in our future, how many games we're going to have. This was a way that we can, again, drill it down a little bit more than just say, here's a pot of, $20,000, good luck. This is a way that we can say this is our true needs. Another unbudgeted line item from last year was the chartered bus for our baseball team. We had to cover a portion of that with Hartford. This is another way that we can, again, through that experience, be able to add that to the budget. That's why I highlighted that, just so we are aware of potential spend. And a big hit was the volleyball net. At the end of our volleyball season, successful as it was, we kind of had to be very gently and caring for that net because it was on its last life. We do know we do have to invest that this year for this coming season, and it runs about $10,000. So that's going to be the gigantic, it's a system. It's not just poles, it's not just a net. They really are in the floor, and we got to make sure that the people who are setting it up are the ones who know how to set it up, because that's part of the, to keep the life of equipment going.
Well, that's for this gym.
So, refurbished football helmets, we just pitching into Hudson Falls.
I believe that's also why we budget for that, correct, yep. And
Like half?
I don't know if it's half, I know it's some.
I do know we
Yeah.
paid a portion.
Yeah,
I mean, I know it's not cheap.
Yeah.
Believe
They're
me.
definitely not cheap,
Yeah.
It's safety too, yep.
yeah.
So that's where most of that was from the volleyball net system.
See, if those girls weren't any good, we could just like.
So here's equipment, contractual, and supplies going down each of these. One of the things we added was, of course, the NYSBA membership. We believe that that's actually very helpful. There's a lot of benefits out of that. I'd like to remind you also that SAS that we got that came in was only accessible through NYSBA, and it was through the FEH BOCES connection with NYSBA that gave us SAS, and they returned us a significant amount of money. So, you know, that was just one little perk to being a part of the NYSBA membership. They provide trainings, they provide a lot of opportunities. Another highlighted item that's new to this year's budget is because, as we were talking about professional development, leadership retreat. To work as a team and to be a part of a team is a great way to make a great business. And I know Rich has been talking about having that be added this year, so leadership retreat was highlighted.
Yep, and we already have that planned, and that's going to be a Coaster Bowl item.
Awesome.
We're partnering with Glens Falls and Abe Wing, and we're gonna be going up to Lake Placid for a few days with everyone here, and surprise Mallory. It's July 20, the dates are late in July. And we'll be taking Chris and Sandy and hopefully Steve, and we'll be getting all developed up and doing some great, I think, leadership bonding that is, I think, is much more than anything you'll learn up there. So I'm very excited for that, and I thank Glens Falls for taking the lead and inviting us to it. So thank you.
And some more continued equipment, contractual, and supplies. The highlight of the 40,000 is what Rich mentioned before. We would like to look at trying to highlight a classroom or two where you can maybe increase the equipment, maybe again furniture. I was again new to school business last year, and the .2 codes were not in the budget until my last presentation. We could not buy these library tables and chairs without a .2 code. And what happens was we didn't have those in our budget. So now that we can incorporate them, so the budget that I inherited was very anemic. It was again very skeletal. This was a way to say, hey, you know what? We do have some classroom needs. By having a focus on some of our needed classrooms, this will give us opportunity to spruce them up and make them appropriate for our classrooms.
And with that line item there is that, we are gonna have to do some work in our classrooms prior to when we break ground in, 25, summer of 25.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see some pictures when you come up that have to be addressed immediately.
Harlan Clark check reorder.
Yep.
Is in business admin materials and supplies and business admin contractual. Close for $1,000.
I know that that's where they landed. Sometimes what happens with some of our accounts, when I run the reports, they are in separate accounts, just as long as the money matches of what our spend is. Sometimes we do that with that. You might see that with a couple accounts, so with like a Amazon.com. We don't just have an Amazon for one account. They're in multiple accounts just because they land that way. These are reports that I've run where they do actually show up in those, and that was the amounts that we did pay.
I mean, did we pay them?
No, it's
2,000 or
it's
they just hit it twice.
It would be 2,000 and 1,000 a piece. Yeah, so we did have to pay them because checks are really expensive when you do our printing. And now that we will be taking that on full bore, because we used to have FEH BOCES do a lot of the printing, we're going to be doing that in house.
Oh, I just didn't want to see if there was redundancy there.
And there are some redundancies. Thank you again for pointing that out, and the fact that I just wanted to make sure all of the cents are accounted for. So sometimes you'll see in a different account line item, you will see multiple, sometimes taglines or numbers, but they all add up to what our real spend is.
Now, is this going to, I know I'm probably ahead of the curve here, but in the past, in Fort Edward, when budget time came around, they had a little one-page handout that said, here's your budget, vote. People gonna see where the money's going this year? Because that was one of the biggest, I'm going to Stewart's to get a cup of coffee complaint that I had was, you want this much money, and you're spending this much money, where's it going? I know in Glens Falls, you got like an 18-page document with all of this in that document, that line for line, it showed the taxpayer where their money was going.
Because this is publicized and people have access to this, every cent can be accounted for. They can look through every single cent. What I want to do is at the end, like
On board docs, yeah.
Yes, it is, but not everybody goes board docs. Nor
We also
does
have paper
everybody watch
copies.
them.
Well, we also have paper copies.
Yeah.
KZ prints off. And we have that available in the front office.
I just,
Mail any of that
you know,
crap now,
I'm just saying, looking at past performance here.
Absolutely.
We need to be as transparent, like you said we were gonna be, as much as possible with the people whose money we're spending, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
mean-
the point that it's published on the website and stuff.
Yeah, ever.
And we can always make a paper copy if someone wants. We can
No,
always
but that's
do that.
why I'm looking at, you know, where people would have a perceived redundancy, or a question, well, how come, you know, we're spending this much money for this line item?
Correct.
But if they come to the budget meetings, they would know, so.
But we could look, I don't necessarily believe that we should throw out an 18-page document,
No,
but maybe we could beef up the one or two. Maybe we could,
You know,
we
hit the
could look.
highlights
I
anyway.
think, what I was saying though too, this is board docs, public version has this
Yep.
document that we're literally looking at.
Yeah, I
Correct.
mean, if we sent out something hitting the major points and say, you know, for.
You're talking about the
detail,
pathways, right? The pathways one that comes out right before the budget,
Yep.
the newsletter?
You know, for detailed information, or if you have any questions, refer to board
Oh,
docs.
okay, yeah, we could put the link on there.
And that way, you know, if somebody was
Good idea.
digging deep, they could dig deep.
Yeah.
And know that the money is going to a good spot.
That's a great idea.
That's a good idea.
That's a really good idea.
It costs $700 right now, so we gotta be careful.
Yeah.
It's true to that.
Don't believe me, I know.
Every thing's expensive.
I see it and I get it every day. Why are we paying these people? Because I get it, yeah. Every day.
And this is again more continuation of the equipment contractual supplies.
No luck.
And we, of course, are very excited our Positivity Project. And there are some conferences and extra financing to that because we're seeing some really good things turning the school around. Lots of excitement with that. Piano tuning, again, that wasn't really budgeted last year, but we need to make sure we have our pianos tuned. It doesn't seem significant, it's still $500, but again, I wanted to make sure everything is highlighted.
That's kind of cheap for that.
Yeah,
Give you a good deal.
for 3 pianos, yeah.
Yeah, we have. we
Yeah,
did.
all 3.
Yep.
And some of these, again, just not are highlighted. You'll see the savings on the bottom, 11% decrease, and that was again because many of these contractuals are related to our special education. So some of our needs are either somebody's graduating, we don't have them in a facility, we brought them back in-house. It's a very exciting to see how we are working really hard to make some savings, but also with a non-predictable way of doing special education, we still have monies available for making sure we can teach any student that comes to our school. And this is a summary. So I took all those budget lines that we just talked and we drilled down to the cent. This gives you each contractual equipment and supply. And this is the summary for all of those accounts. And this is our estimated draft of our budget. So there's multiple slides because again, it's a pretty long document. So you'll see a total on the bottom and that's just for that specific slide. There will be a grand total at the bottom for the entire budget, but I wanted just to show you how each account is presented, the different changes, the different savings, how much it would be costing.
So that's perfect. Those last few pages. That will answer, I believe, a lot of questions. Where you know, in the past, unfortunately,
Mhm.
you know, it's just tough to answer them sometimes, so.
But I think the combination, because you want to make sure, again, each account is drilled down to the cent, this gives you the overview of
Yeah,
a little bit
then
higher
just
view.
refer them to the website.
Correct. And again, this is every account that we have in our budget. This allows you to see where all the money is going. The change, the dollar change, percent change from last year's.
Chris, so we went out at 12.4 last year?
It was almost a 12.5.
So those numbers are actuals in here, or they're what they were estimated at the time we built the budget last year?
Well, when we did 12.5, keep in mind, those salaries were not actual because we would spend it off the grant. So again, I know Rich has been using the example of our guidance counseling. We spent $3,000 last year on guidance counseling. That's not what our guidance counselors cost combined. So that's kind of what we did. So from a budget last year, it was 3,000, but our real spend was significantly higher. So again, when I went back to that first slide before, what our real budget actual operational cost was, it was closer to the 13 million last year.
So there won't be a conversation about surplus? Obviously not. So, yeah, okay.
That'll add.
We don't have surplus in our budget, no.
Obviously.
But what I have to say is, with all the hard work that we've done now for the year and a half I've been here, we really know where the money is going. There isn't cushion in the budget. When I got here, there was actually a line called cushion. So we are truly looking at specific monies, what they go to. We drill it down, and if I don't have a clear picture, we make sure it's a clear picture. So I feel very confident on where every cent is going to the school and to the real needs of the school. I know I've been using the example of physical education because I do believe that's a very specialized program that was not funded well here for a while. We actually demand them to teach pre-K and special education students, and their budget was so anemic that between the two phys ed teachers, they split $600. So that's what they had to work with for many, many, many years. By talking with them and seeing their needs and also looking at the equipment that's older than me as their best equipment, I said, we can do better. We can do better by our school, by our programs, and by figuring out strategically, some monies are coming through a grant. So pre-K is gonna fund some of the pre-K equipment. We have special education money built in so that we actually have that for phys ed. And we're building in some for the general education as well. So in a 4-year time, we will actually be operating at a pinnacle amount to actually be able to teach physical education across the board for every student in our school at the highest level, not just, let's keep saving a penny here. And, I think we are going to do this with every program. I talked to the music department as well. We're doing that across the board. This budget allows for spend that will get us to every level where we want to be. It might not be this coming year because again, we have a future goal of how we can kind of piecemeal it throughout the years to come, but this is a way to get us on a path to fortify our future and make sure our education is the highest level for our students. And here's our grand total. So it is $13,386,431, which is a difference of a dollar change of $936,774.15. So our percent change is 7.525 over last year's budget. Technically, because the impact of last year's with ESSER, it just doesn't hit the book. We always knew this was going to hit. So it looks kind of ugly, but again, with our strategic financial strategies, we were able to, again, I think, kind of dodge that major crater coming at us. This is a way that we were able to have still a hit, but not what could be a significant hit.
I appreciate your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, man.
I appreciate you guys, thank you.
Nice job. So just in summary, just for whoever's listening, You know, our proposed budget will go out at 7.5% above last year's budget at almost an increase of $1 million of 936,000. The reason being is that some of our grants are falling off. We are able to come out at the tax cap at 2.36 and able to fill the gap with fund balance. And we thank all of those people ahead of us and Chris, who were able to kind of look at a crystal ball and understand where we needed to be to fill the gap with fund balance and be able to stay underneath the cap. So if you have any questions about any of the budgeting, please don't hesitate to call the school.
Cool, thank you.
Good job.
Next up.
All right, your turn. My turn. Okay. So this is a cohort report. I did a similar one last year. We're kind of checking in on the status of each of our grades in the high school and where they are graduation-wise. So our current seniors are 2020 cohort. So again, this is when in 2020, when they first hit 9th grade, there were 30 students who are still kind of assigned to us, meaning that they did not transfer to another district. We are still responsible for these 30 students. 2 of those students are out of district placement. They have not ever been in our building, at least at the high school level. They've been out at a BOCES program. They do count for us because they are our students, but again, we have very little control over what they're doing. We have 21 of those 30 students are on track to graduate in June. We've got 1 who's on track to graduate in August. He is currently passing all of his classes that he needs to take this year to graduate, and then we'll be taking a couple of classes this summer. So he will count favorably for us in our graduation rate for this year. We have 2 of our kids from the 2020 cohort on track to graduate in 2025. Both Joanna and I have gone over their transcripts with a fine-tooth comb, and there's just no way to get them done this year due to, poor performance in previous years. We have 1 on track to graduate in 2026. That student is ours, but did come to us from another district, came in already behind, and again, doing what we can to try to get them caught up. I'm hoping that we can do some out-of-the-box thinking and get the student in summer school, maybe do a little bit of credit accrual in summer school to try to get that 2026 number to 2025 instead.
I'm sorry, in your experience in these delayed graduations, good return on that investment, or the kids just not follow through?
I think the earlier we catch them, the better, because then they are feeling more on track with their cohort. But I would say that if we can get them to come to summer school, then that shows that we're investing in them, and then if they're actually coming, that shows that they've gotten serious. They're starting to make better decisions than when they were in 9th grade and 14 and not serious about their future, and then they get to be 16 or 17 and see the writing on the wall, and sometimes have that epiphany and decide it's worth it.
So maturity may help rather than them thinking, I'm just going to go right to get a job and then graduate. Maturity kind of helps them realize they should stick with it. Good.
Exactly, and especially when we talk to them about being able to check that box on an application that you've got your high school diploma opens up so many doors. And I talk to kids all the time about, maybe you can't find the epicenter of an earthquake, or you can't talk about ancient Mesopotamia, you can't do those things. But if you can check that box that says you graduated from high school, doors are open to you that would not be open if you can't check that box. Even DoorDash, you have to have a diploma. So things that you would think, why do I need a diploma for this? They do. It's just a weeding out mechanism that employers use, and I try to talk to kids about that and have those very real conversations and you know, maybe you don't wanna go split the atom, maybe you don't wanna go get your doctorate in something, but just to have a job that you can do, that you can use to earn the money that you want to live your life is important. And the high school diploma is, you know, kind of the bare minimum you need to get those
So
jobs.
there's good hope there that those kids might do it. That's good.
Yeah, and especially if we can think out of the box a little bit and get some credit accrual happening over the summer. And then trying to go back and recover any credit that they haven't, you know, that they're not repeating right now. Trying to get creative and make those things happen.
So just, if you could just hang here 1 second.
Sure.
In my experience, I think the farther you get away from August, the tougher it gets to get them through. I'll just say that. So, 2 questions. The 2 out-of-district placements, are they in Regents Track programs or are they in like, not? Like, are they in?
They are both in Regents Track.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's good.
Mhm.
So they could be graduates
Yes,
for us.
one of them is definitely on track to graduate.
Okay, so that's great. And then the 2 that you have on track for the next year, does that include does that include summer school work or no?
That does not currently include summer school work. So
Okay,
if
so-
we can get creative this summer and
Okay.
offer some things to them, that could change.
All
I
right,
think
Yep.
they would be open to that, or?
I think they will be open to that. It's just what we can kind of put together and work kind of as a team with the union and with the administration and put something together that we can, you know, and I think if we can show that it's gonna get them to graduate earlier than 2026,
Yeah.
2025.
It's hate to see kids lose motivation.
Exactly. So like if we can get those 2 on track for 2025 to maybe graduate in January of 2025, you know, or 2024, instead of waiting all the way till June of 2025, that could be some motivation for them as well. You know, if we can show them that they can do it over the summer and then half a year.
That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have 5 students from that cohort who have dropped. They were students who neither Rich nor I had the pleasure of knowing. They were gone before we started here. So they were, you know, drops, you know, pretty much in talking to staff who has some historical knowledge. They were kids who dropped, you know, in 9th grade. They just stopped coming. So back in 2020, they were here, they registered, they were here, and then they just kind of fell away. Yeah, unfortunately. And didn't register anywhere else, didn't sign up to be a homeschooled student. And of course, this was, you know, 2020 was the COVID year, and when we were calling CPS about any kind of educational neglect, there were so many other things that CPS was really charged with doing and trying to keep kids physically safe in you know, kind of that crazy dystopian environment that happened during COVID, that educational neglect kind of was on the back burner. You know, is the kid still safe? Is the kid, you know, not injured? Then we gotta move on and worry about the kids who were being harmed during COVID. So unfortunately, and this is not just here in Washington County, this is kind of everywhere, kids that year really kind of fell off, unfortunately. So this, with the numbers we have right now, 21 of our 30 students graduating, that's district level statistics. That includes the 2 out of district students. That's a 70% graduation rate in June, a 73.3 graduation rate in August. Our building level stats, which is not including the 2 out of district students, would be 20 out of 28 students with a 71.4% graduation rate in June, jumping to a 75% graduation rate when that student graduates in August.
That still includes the 5 that just dropped off this year.
Correct. Yeah, this is the
So
30.
realistic numbers is much higher than.
Right, I mean, if we're looking at our kids who have been with us, you know, but yeah, those 5 that kind of dropped off because they didn't transfer to another district, didn't transfer to homeschooling.
They no longer.
Count again.
Yep, they count against us. We own them,
So
you
we
know.
would be somewhere in the high 80s, I would imagine.
Exactly, yeah, yep. And, you know, these are kids who, you know, I've looked at their files. Letters were, you know, phone calls were made, letters were sent, you know, parents invited in for meetings, you know, to try to, you know, what can we do to get your child to come back in? And, you know, it really looks like everyone did everything in their power to try to communicate with these folks. So now looking at our junior class, our 2025 graduation year, 26 students total, including 2 out-of-district placements. 16 of those 26 are currently on track to graduate on time. We have 5 on track to graduate in 2026, and Rich and I have had a few conversations about these students, and they're juniors now, so these are kids who we really think we can get creative with and try to get them back on track. And being a junior right now, looking and saying, wow, like a year and a half from now, I'm still not gonna be on track to graduate. We really think we can get creative, and whether it's the use of EduSeer, which is an online educational program, whether it's a credit recovery program that we work into the school day, we think we can get at least some of those 5 back on track with their cohort. This cohort includes 3 life skills students. They are not on a Regents track for graduation. They will be receiving the skills and achievement credential, which means that they will finish their program, their life skills program, which is great. Gives them a lot of job skills and a lot of those soft skills like resume writing and you know, being on time for work and all of that great stuff. But unfortunately, because they will not get the actual New York State diploma, they do count against us in graduation rate. I mean, they're amazing and they're a huge part of our school community, but unfortunately, New York State counts them as non-completers because they won't get their
Well, they'll count
diploma.
them for your beginning number, but not for
Exactly.
that's some good math.
Right, right. Of the 26 students that started out in the 2021 cohort, 2 have dropped. Lack of attendance, family instability. We have tried to convince the families to at least sign up for homeschooling, at least even to prepare for a GED, so that, again, these students in the future can check that box that says, yes, I have a high school diploma or GED. You know, so we've tried a variety of things and they're just not responsive.
If, I can back up really a second.
Yeah.
For a quick second about the life skills and the SAC. I guess I'm just not totally familiar, with what the differences, of the tracks are.
Sure.
But for these students, I can imagine that GED would be just as helpful to them moving forward with this SAC. Do we do anything to get them pointed in the right direction of being able to do that after they get this? Do we do anything?
So we do, that's a great question. So the skills and achievement credential is for students who are, you know, they're profoundly, they're students with profound disabilities.
Right.
Definitely, you know, we have to go through a battery of testing and definitely, you know, are not Regents bound. We do hook these students up with Access VR, which is the old VESID. So it's an outside agency that works with students as they're graduating or getting ready to leave school, and that provides them with job training. If they're interested in going to get their GED, they can hook them up with a GED prep course. They also will do things like, you know, they'll pay for driving lessons if they want to learn how to drive. They will pay for college tuition, books, laptops to go to college. So Access VR is a huge support, especially for our students who are getting the skills and achievement credential. And again, we have to remember that these students were entering 9th grade during the first, quote, normal year back after COVID. So their entire middle school experience was either shut down, remote, hybrid, plagued with quarantining. Not that that's an excuse, but we also have to look at the mindset of these students. They went through a couple of years of, I'm in school, I'm out of school, there's not really any deadlines, this is kind of weird. Then they come into 9th grade and bam, we're holding them accountable in these, these graduation requirement courses. So it's almost like we changed the rules on them in the middle of the game, and they weren't quite ready. So these numbers are a little ugly. So the district level stats, 16 of 26 students is a 61.5% graduation rate. Building level stats, 15 of 24 be a 62% graduation rate. If we could count those 3 students who are getting the skills and achievement credential, we'd be up to a 73% district graduation rate, a 75% building rate. But again, to go back, if we can, those 5 who are on track to graduate a year late, if we can get even 1 or 2 of them to graduate on time, that will significantly increase our graduation rate. So that is where I'm gonna be focusing a lot of effort on those 5 to see what we can do to get them accelerated in their graduation rate. So, so that at least a couple of them can join their cohort walking across that stage. Our current sophomores, we have 25 currently on our cohort. 1 is moving to homeschool. Paperwork's already been dropped off. 20 of them are on track to graduate on time. So that means we've got 4 students who are out of sequence. 2 of them came to us from life skills programs in other districts, but are currently in our Regents level courses that may or may not change. 2 are repeating 9th grade. So they're in the cohort, they should be 10th graders, they're currently repeating 9th grade. But again, we've got a few years to get them back on track. So with some strategically placed credit recovery, with some strategically placed credit accrual, hoping to get those 2 back on track. So even with the 2 students who joined us from the life skills programs and the 2 who are currently not on track, we're at an 83%, projected 83% graduation rate. And if we can keep everybody who's on track and get those 2 who are currently off track, that's going to boost our numbers significantly. And then our current freshmen, 30 students in that cohort, so 30 students entered 9th grade for the very first time this year. 21 of those students are passing all of their classes. 9 of those students are failing at least 1 class, some of them by a point or 2. As I was going through, I went through all of their grades. So some by a point or 2, some, they're gonna pull it up by the end of the year, but they're currently not passing. But I wanted to be completely transparent with the numbers, or a few I was like, I don't wanna count that one. I know they're gonna turn it around, but I wanted to make sure if they were currently not having a 65 in a class, I'm counting them as failing a class. For those students, we have a lot of academic recovery. Right now, our 8th period is an academic recovery period where students who are failing classes are assigned to, it's kind of like a structured guided study hall with a teacher in that subject. So if you happen to be failing Global 9 or 10, you're in an academic recovery class with a global teacher who is saying, you still owe me this test or that essay, you need to rewrite that right now, and helping them get back on track. It's a great, and we offer it across all subjects. So students, if they're passing everything, they don't have to be in academic recovery. If they are not, then they are going, and we've got some students who go to a different teacher every day. The ones who are failing more than 1 class, they may be going to math one day, English the next day. And the communication is really, really strong between the teachers and the guidance department. So when students have turned it around and are passing their classes, they can come out of academic recovery. But it's a very fluid thing, which is great. Some kids are in it for a very brief time. They turn things around, they're passing, and they stay passing. Other kids are in it for a little longer. We do have letters that go home every 2 weeks to parents of students who are failing classes. So the communication between the school and the parents is really important. I've never worked in a district where we send home report cards every 10 weeks. We do 5-week progress reports, but we also do 2-week letters. And I've never worked in a district where communication happened that often.
Is it both ways? You getting communicated back from the parents?
I'm gonna say very rarely. Very rarely. We do, we will call home and set up meetings for parents to come in, so we can talk about things, talk about strategies to to increase grades, plans to have kids stay after school. So our teachers are available, 4 days a week till 3 o'clock. So we've got a few kids who are, we've met with the parents, and the parents have agreed to a schedule of, okay, who's gonna stay after on Mondays for math and Tuesdays for English and
Well,
Wednesdays
there's some
for.
investment there.
Exactly, yep. This year we offered boot camp to 7th and 9th grade students to provide some skill building. So we're hopeful that that will, give the 7th graders and 9th graders some skills they need to be successful throughout their high school careers. We are once again going to offer summer school so students can recover credit rather than repeating the entire class. So what was happening before we were offering summer school is if I failed English 9, next year I would take English 9 all over again, putting me a year behind in English, so then harder for me to graduate. So if we can offer, offer summer school to those students, they can hopefully recover that 9th grade English credit and then join their cohort in 10th grade English and not be behind. Summer school is really important. We've implemented the Positivity Project. The goal there is to create more connections between students and teachers and students and each other. Make school a more positive place for all of our students. If they're coming more, they're gonna succeed more. When they've disconnected and they don't have those relationships, it's easy to not come to school, and when you don't come to school, it's easy to not succeed. We've got incentives for good attendance and behavior. And at our junior, senior high school Positivity Project assemblies, we recognize academic achievement. We want kids to feel good about themselves, thank you for doing the right thing, thank you for passing your classes, and then hopefully choose students who maybe are on the cusp of not doing the right thing, say, all right, I want to get called up on stage next time too, and get that certificate that I've made honor roll. And then another change that we made actually last year was not allowing students who are not on track to graduate go to BOCES. Before that really wasn't the practice. Students, even if they weren't on track, they were allowed to go to BOCES to get a trade, which on one hand kind of makes sense. Hey, if you're not academically inclined, but you've got this thing at BOCES you want to do, let's get you there so you can learn that trade and hopefully go out and make a life for yourself. However, if you're not on track to graduate, going to BOCES isn't helpful because we got to get you your diploma as well. So we are changing that. We're making sure that kids who go to BOCES are still on track to graduate. Questions or concerns?
I gotta say, when I first saw the numbers, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, me too.
Hurt a little bit.
It hurt typing them.
But the detail and the opportunities that we have to maybe get these students where they graduate close to on time is really important. Graduation rate is one of the top priorities of everyone on this side of the room and everyone on that side.
Absolutely.
So I think it's important, and I appreciate the detail. I appreciate
Makes more
the
sense.
communication of this.
Sure.
They do have a rough road. I mean, putting that COVID stuff in there really was devastating to kids during that point. We see it universally, right? Around the world.
But at a certain point, in understanding that, but at a certain point, we just need to pull ourselves up and get back to work. Not get back to work, but they need to get back to work. The parents need to get back to work. It needs to be, we can't make the parents do what they don't want to do, but that's where a lot of issues, I would say a significant amount of issues can be solved. It's not in school, but preparing for school. The issues are one of two things a lot of times, attitude or aptitude. They have the aptitude and have a not great attitude, they're not going to succeed. You can have a lower aptitude with a great aptitude or a great attitude and come up. So it boils down to attitude or aptitude.
Absolutely. And I will say too, our teachers are willing to bend over backwards and help kids get through.
Yeah,
if the kids are here, if the kids are coming, the kids are here, the teachers are willing to work with them. And I just had a meeting this afternoon with a student.
That one right there.
Yeah. With a
8 o'clock at night, I was leaving a modified basketball game, and Mrs. Smonko is working on her bulletin board, or whatever that board is, at 8 o'clock at night, on a Monday night, and I'll tell you what, that's success, right there.
For
She
sure.
That's
rocked
what we
COVID though. Her and Chris rocked COVID doing those virtual sessions. They did amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And that's one thing I will say about our teachers is they truly care and they'll go the extra mile. They really will. So I'm fortunate to lead a group of teachers who really are invested in our students and just the level of conversations we have about our students and the care they take about, individual kids and let's have a meeting about this and let's talk about this and let's brainstorm. So that's something I'm really excited to be working with these great teachers.
I think
So
that
we're
speaks
excited
volumes
too, and
with
you have no more success.
the care, because some kids don't have that support. But to know that you have a team of people who are there to care and help you must speak volumes for people who aren't as lucky to have caring parents at home. So if they feel like this might be a home versus home.
It's a great way to say that. Yesterday at our faculty meeting, our elementary faculty meeting, we were talking about things that people thought were important and the teachers really were focused on the relationships they have between them and the students, and that needs to come first. So that kids feel cared for and they feel safe and they feel loved and then they can learn. But because if they don't feel that way, it's just not gonna get through. So yeah, that was, it was the discussion yesterday at the meeting was really, I kind of got goosebumps just listening to the teachers talk about how much they really do love their students and what they do to care for them. So it was very impressive. So great bunch of people.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Table for 2 minutes.
Dude.
Okay, the portion of the agenda reports. We had our finance committee meeting prior to this meeting. A lot of what we talked about Chris presented to you all. But we did talk about the importance of this capital project and not only for the building, but for our sustainability and things like that. So, cool. Any of these need to have a meeting coming up?
Personnel committee, we never met. So we should reschedule that one, I think.
Which one we have to reschedule?
Personnel.
All right, personnel we have to reschedule, okay, and initially that was the 25th of January. So, can we get a date tonight?
Who's on
I think it's me, Ella, Audrey, you're on that committee.
And Ella, right? Is Ella on
I think Ella's on it too.
Yeah.
Wow, February is weird. So, how about 21st or 22nd? February, everything going on there?
Sounds good.
How about this? I'll just send it out email and we'll figure it out. How's that?
Sounds good.
Because that was not here, so. So we'll do that. Any of these other ones, capital project, you guys are meeting a lot.
I think we have one set.
Yeah, we have set in March.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. All right, sir, superintendent report.
Okay. The basketball seasons have ended for the girls and are modified. The boys varsity is still playing. They will begin sectional play over break. I want to believe it's next Saturday.
Next Saturday.
Next Saturday. And that's at Stillwater?
I've not given the location or the time, I just know the day.
Okay. Yeah. So we wish them luck, and I just want to give a shout out to Coach Stevens. I think he's having a great season considering that he came on, I think 1 day or 2 days before the season started. So he's been a wonderful addition. He's already talking about the future, and he's already talking about the lower level. So we thank Matt Stevens for his work.
I think it's a great addition.
Yeah. We did get a visit from Dean Ashdown from Hudson Valley Community College. We thank them for the wonderful opportunities that they're offering our students. They're expanding a new program in one of our newer buildings at our BOCES. And they're really have a great cooperation with Niagara Mohawk. And hopefully our kids will be able to take some advantages of that. They're not competing with Adirondack. That's one thing that they wanted to make clear. They're just offering additional opportunities. We have a big solar eclipse happening in our area on April 4th. That is the day after our break, our April break. We are sending up 2 buses up to Lake Placid, or at least one bus. One bus, correct, Chris?
We're trying to do 2, but
Okay.
one definite.
One definite. So I want to thank Heather Havens and Hillary Potter. They're leading the charge. I think Mrs. Russo might be heading up there. Is that?
I'm definitely heading up.
So, yeah, so they've got some great events planned. So thank you to those people, and I look forward to hearing about that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is neat, isn't it? Aaron, I don't mean to steal some of your thunder, but I didn't look at your report, so I'm just gonna talk about it. The middle school had a nice snowball dance since our last meeting. I'll let Aaron talk more about that if it's in her report, but I believe it was a huge success. We did have a building safety team. We have noticed that we did not have areas of refuge for non-ambulatory students on our 2nd floor and 3rd floor of the high school. So we are adding that in. And we thank Needham for their work and the people on the building safety team. Well, legislative breakfast I was able to attend since our last meeting. The 3 key things that we're pushing for legislatively, and there's a big lobby day coming up March 5th. Chris mentioned, and I think everybody in the capital project, $100,000 outlay is the cap that you can do. So we've filled that. What that means is that we can do $100,000 worth of a project and not have to go out for voter approval. Okay, they want to increase that. I think 250,000. The cap, only because one of our neighboring districts tried to do some work at $100,000, and that equated to 6 sinks in one of their schools. So that's all they could afford with the 100,000. So the other thing is, Chris mentioned, most of our aid for BOCES, any teacher that we aid for BOCES, we can only aid up to $30,000 of their salary. And that was made in 1992, I think, and it hasn't changed since then. Obviously, salaries have changed since then. So we're hoping to lobby for an increase on the CTE teacher reimbursement salary. And obviously, we are lobbying to stop playing with foundation aid and reinstate fully safe harmless. So those are some things we're looking for. Let's see. I want to thank the Tri-County United Way and North Country Subaru. They donated probably 25 to 30 coats for our elementary students. So that was fantastic. I want to thank our cleaners and the business office and Aaron for all of their work that's been going on. It's been a crazy kind of January and February. So everybody's been really stepping up. So we really appreciate all those efforts. Coaches versus Cancer game. Thank you, Mrs. Singleton. Raised over $1,000 for Coaches versus Cancer. I did put out in my last staff update a call for a diverse equity and inclusion group. So hopefully we can get that going. Thank you, Tim, for pointing that out in our last policy meeting that we need to get that group established. We just had our homecoming dance. That was a very big success. I want to thank Nicole Schilling for her work and Jessica Smacko for being there at the dance. We thank her for that. And let's see, senior trip update. So we have 16 students committed to the senior trip. Possibly could be 18. They have 3 solid chaperones. And the venue may change. I think they approached you on Ocean City, Maryland. Now they're talking possibly Boston or New Jersey. Is that what they're talking about, Aaron? I don't know about New Jersey. I knew Boston's on the table,
I
but
know Boston was on the table. I'm not sure about Jersey.
yeah. So yes, yeah. And I am in conversations about the rooming assignments. That is a question. So I'm in conversations with legal about that. And I'll give you more of an update about that later. Workplace violence policy assessment, that occurred on February 6th. Needham was here to do that. I'll send you that report as soon as I get it. Thank you, Sandy Wagner, for the technology committee meeting. We have now 65 new desktops that will be delivered to teachers hopefully by the end of March. So that's fantastic. Superintendent's Conference Day, the half one, coming up this Friday. We will be, Joanna Scotch, thank you very much, will be doing DASA updates. We have a BOCES person coming in to talk about explicit instruction to our staff. And one of our staff members, Dawn Barrett, will be leading our TAs in de-escalation. And Needham offered us a free workplace violence workshop for our custodians. So I took them up on that, and they're gonna do a 90-minute workplace violence training. So it's only a half day, but it's gonna be a full 3 hours of work. So thank you to everybody. Steve Neron is doing well. Talked to him today. Recovering very well. He has a follow-up appointment on the 20th. And he's doing very well. So we miss him, but we're glad that he's taking care of himself. I had to yell at him. He wanted to come to the building, but I told him it's not a safe environment for him because we have a lot of illness, unfortunately, floating around the district. So, and so with that, the last two things I have is I just want to thank again Jessica Smatko. I know she gets a lot of accolades, but she is now battle-tested administrator. It was a crazy January in the fact that we were waiting for Mallory to arrive. Aaron was out with the flu, and Steve obviously had his medical issue. So it was me and Jess holding down the fort, and we had a battle-tested 2 weeks. Anything that could happen, I think, happened during that 2-week time period. So she is now semi-seasoned, I'm gonna say, and did well. She's absolutely ready, to meet her goals, and hopefully and I know they include the fort. So hopefully we can make that happen. And again, another huge congratulations goes to Jess because she just completed her last exams for her administrative certificate this past Super Bowl Sunday, I think, or Monday. It was what? Oh, okay.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah. So she's at the light right there. So with that one, so again, and thank you to all the staff who stepped up during that time, and it was great because again, Jess and Nicole at the homecoming dance, I had. And I'm not complaining, I'm just telling you facts. I had 2 or 3 straight 60-hour work weeks, not including my travel time. So I needed to take that Saturday just to get some things done. And it was great to have Jess and Nicole and I was able to trust them to make sure that homecoming dance went off without a hitch, without me or Aaron. And they did a fantastic job. Awesome. So that's all I have. Sorry if it was long, but I tried to go as fast as I could.
So you're up again.
All right, long time no hear from me.
Yeah.
Okay, so our attendance since day one, we are at 91.7% attendance since day one. Our high attendance grades, 3rd grade has 95% attendance since day one. And 6th grade is at 94% attendance since day one. We've got a couple grades that need improvement. 9th grade dipped below 90%. They are now at 87% for the year, and 8th and 10th grade are 89%. So again, I think there's been a lot of sickness just circulating in general. We are finishing up enrichment session 2 for 3rd through 6th graders. We had over 50 students participate this round, which is great. Session 3 will start after the play to avoid conflicts, because when we do it during the play, then most of the 6th graders can't participate, and then they're torn, and we don't want to do that. So we will be starting that March 19th. The snowball dance, like Rich mentioned, was a huge success. It was for middle schoolers, and the whole thing started because I had a group of 8th grade girls who came to me and said, we've never had a dance and we want to dance. Can we do this? So I gave them a list of things to do, find some chaperones, pick a date, blah, blah. And they came back about a week later, they made an appointment, they came back, they had all their homework done. So they were true to their word, so we had to dance and it was awesome. Kids 6th through 8th grade all dressed up. There were a couple of corsages that happened. But it was really great. They were, they danced, they sang, they played board games. It was really great. It was just fun to see the kids excited to be here, dressed up and just having a great time. It was really well, and it was very well attended. Our play is coming up on March 8th and 9th, The Little Mermaid. So it'll be Friday night, March 8th, and Saturday, March 9th in the afternoon. And there's a ton of kids involved in it. It's a big cast and a big crew. So if you know anybody in grade 6 on up, they're probably involved in some way, shape, or form in that play. We are continuing our monthly Positivity Project assemblies at the elementary level. Last month, we actually played Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader to deal with Positivity Project, and the 5th graders beat the staff. So our 5th graders were very excited. They have bragging rights for a while now. We do have, for Positivity Project, a 6th through 12th grade incentive, which is secret, on Friday for our students who have missed only 2 days of school since December 4th and have had no disciplinary referrals. So any 6th through 12th graders who meet those criteria are having a super secret surprise on Friday morning. We're going to have a Positivity Project assembly. We're going to recognize all of our academic achievers and then announce the students who get to participate in this incentive event. At the moment, about 80 of our students are eligible for this, so that's pretty good. And last but not least, yesterday we got to announce our valedictorian and salutatorian. So congratulations to Preston Gulick, our valedictorian, and Gabriel Glass, our salutatorian.
That's great.
Very excited for them. That's what I've got.
Anything to add to the?
It's me, yeah. So yesterday was my first day, and it's been, a great couple of days here at the fort. I've had the opportunity to do a lot of laps around the building and familiarize myself, and also pop into classrooms and meet a lot of students and teachers. I've actually started to take some time to meet one-on-one with the special ed teachers just to get a better understanding of, their needs, their visions for our department, and seeing how I can support them. So I think I have maybe 1 or 2 more to meet with tomorrow. We've been have done drafting our annual review schedule with the help of Ms. Carpenter, my secretary, who's been so helpful to me as I've been starting out. So we'll be starting annual reviews in mid-March. My plan over the break is to create a little bit of a handbook to provide the teachers with, just so that we have, expectations of the meetings, and we have a uniform approach so that everyone's meetings are the best that we can make them. A couple goals that I have just moving forward is to come up with a continuum of services and really detail our learner characteristics of our programs, especially the special programs that we started last year. And I'm also going to be working with our AIS teachers and, really looking at our RTI process and figuring out, how we're referring students, and also looking at the IST process as well. So looking at students and how we're referring them to get special ed services. But yeah, so a lot of stuff to do, but I'm very excited, and everyone has been so welcoming and so helpful as I navigate, my first few days here. So yeah.
That's great.
We're happy to have you.
Thanks.
No building names.
Did you call Steve?
Get him on the Zoom.
Well, actually, I have taken over those duties, so really quick, our boilers, our pressure's holding. We're good to go. We've solved that issue. That's done. The next thing is I'm working with Greenwood because our gym roof, we think, is under warranty. So I'm pushing on that right now. And been meeting with the cleaners weekly. we're gonna be deep cleaning this place over break. So all hands on deck except for one scheduled vacation, and they'll be here, during that break. And that's it. So building maintenance wise, everything's going smooth.
Sounds good.
Steve didn't leave you his credit card then.
I was gonna say, do you get his budget? His weekly allowance that you get?
I don't, no, I've been, Chris has been helping me out. I've been sending Polly to him, and he's been helping me, so thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Okay, next up are two policies that are in their first reading. Has everyone reviewed those policies? Everyone's okay with us publishing them?
Yeah.
Yep. They have to sit on the website for X amount of days, or we're good to go?
We're good to go.
I'm sorry?
We're good to go.
We're good for it. Okay. So, do we need a motion attached to this? I don't think so, right? Need a motion with that?
I'm looking right now, because I
I'm not sure.
honestly don't remember how to do this. I think you do motion.
Actually, they probably haven't been adopted, so I need a motion on them, so yeah. So I need a motion for the first reading of the policy number 61, I'm gonna try and spell glasses, 6190, workplace violence prevention.
Motion.
Second.
Kelly, all in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. And then I need a motion to accept the first reading of wellness policy number 5661. John? Sarah? All in favor? Okay. Cool. So they are in the books. All right. Consent agenda. We're gonna group these together if everybody's okay with that.
Absolutely.
Okay. So can I get a motion for consent agenda A through I?
Thank you.
Audrey and John? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. A couple of these I do have to go individually on. Next one's, I need a motion for A. Audrey? We see resolution to authorize interim appointments.
Second.
Second? Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. B, I need a resolution to create a treasurer position.
Motion.
Second.
John? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Need a resolution to purchase a diesel bus. Be resolved, the Board of Education for Fort Union Free School hereby approves the following proposition. To purchase a 66-passenger school bus at a maximum aggregate cost not to exceed $178,863.50, and to expend the amount not to exceed that amount. Need a motion. Sarah? John? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. After this one, I think I can agree. Okay, so the next one on the docket is the real property tax exemption that the board can decide to issue to members of our volunteer fire department and ambulance workers residing within the school district. This has been brought up twice before in the past, hasn't passed at the board previously. So what's in front of you tonight, if you so decide to move forward with it, is a resolution to grant an exemption of 5% to any volunteer firefighter or ambulance worker who has served the district for a minimum of 5 years. That 5% tax exemption would be lifetime for them. We also have in that resolution that if any volunteer firefighter or ambulance worker works 20 years, I see that correctly?
20 years of service.
Yeah, 20 years of service.
And I think for the other one, it would start with a minimum of 5 and then we complete it every year up until 20 when they would get lifetime.
I'm sorry, right, it's a 5-year limitation, has to be renewed, but if you have 20 years in the fire department, it's a lifetime exemption. So, rather than saying whether you want to pass it or not, that's the resolution in front of you. 5% with a minimum of 5 years of service, and 20 years of service would get you a lifetime 5%. Okay, so I need a motion to accept. John and Arnie, any discussion on the item? All in favor? All right, that's great. Very happy we passed that. That's awesome.
We did pass it last year, because it was after the deadline.
That's kind of one of the things, we also, there's some parameters there, so I'm very happy that it passed. Awesome, thank you. Okay, I need a motion for E, F, G, H, and I.
Motion.
Taylor and Tim, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, awesome, thank you. Designations, there are 4 designations for business office in front of you, A, B, C, and D. Need a motion. Taylor? John? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Welcome aboard for real.
I don't know who's more in trouble, you or us.
If everyone's reviewed the personnel items, I would like to group them up to N. So I need a motion for A through N, please. A through M.
M? Yes.
Yeah. John? And Sarah? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And then I need a motion to accept a letter of resignation with the intent to retire from Lisa Corlew effective June 30th, 2024.
I think you skipped N.
You went M.
M.
You went to M or N?
Do M.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I need a motion for N too. The glasses aren't working. Okay, John and Audra, is that good? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now, that's it. Oh,
Jess,
that's
can
it.
you set him up with the alphabet?
Difficulties tonight. So I need a motion to accept the letter of resignation with the intent to retire from Lisa Corlew effective June 30th, 2024.
Motion.
Taylor? Sarah? Any discussion?
Thank you for
Thank you.
Thank you
so
for-
many years
Yes.
of service since you were my student council advisor.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And I need a motion to accept the letter of resignation with the intent to retire from Nelson Chase effective June 30, 2024. It's a big one. Sarah? Tim? Any discussion on that one, other than thank you so much, Mr. Chase, for everything? Yeah.
Thanks for getting me through algebra.
Thanks for getting honors through all my
All in favor?
Aye. Sadly.
I'm gonna guess that we don't have anybody in the crowd that wants to talk.
No.
So with that, I need a motion to enter into executive.
Actually, I don't have any names, believe it or not.
Yeah?
Yeah, I didn't get it, yeah, I didn't get enough.
Gotcha, okay. Motion to adjourn, folks. All right, John,
I'll learn it.
we're good, all in favor, thank you folks for joining us this evening.
Oh,
Good work, guys.
Aaron, I'm glad you're feeling better.
Me too.